So mini cheesecakes, absolutely awesome, and shout out to Lindsay for sharing this with me. The first thing we want to do is we're going to preheat our oven to about 290 or 300. My oven doesn't do 290, so I just I go as close as I can to about 300. Okay, so let's preheat. Cool. And shouldn't take very long to preheat. So I have my cookie sheet here, and as I said, we're going to be cooking this cheesecake in the cookie sheet pan. And I have a scale. If you don't have a scale and you love baking, this is like the one tool I would say you should absolutely get as a baker. It's really helpful to get exact measurements. Okay, I did translate the recipe for you guys to be not just grams, but pounds, and also the cups and other measurements. All right, and I'm gonna put my stuff for the food processor in a bowl first and transfer it over. Okay, so the first thing we want to start is cream cheese. Blocks of cream cheese are preferred. If all you have is like a tub of, Philadelphia cream cheese or Tempty or whatever, like the whipped stuff, you should be able to use that. I don't 100% know what the texture will end up being like, but go ahead and use that if that's what you have at home, okay? So we want 750 grams, okay, or 1 pound, 11 ounces, or 3½ sticks, okay? So a stick of cream cheese, the individual smaller ones, not this, is usually about 8 ounces, so you'd be using 3½ of those. Ideally, this would be about room temperature. Mine isn't, I forgot to take it out, so just go with what you got. All right, so this is actually in these 8-ounce increments, look at that. So 3½ I'm just gonna give this a cut right here. That is a little less than I need. So that is 607. I'm going to go a little bit more on this. I want to get to 750 grams. And a little bit more. All right, so this ended up being about the equivalent of 4 sticks of cream cheese. Okay, so for those of you that are keeping track, a little bit more than 3½. I have a question. Can you make a substitute for the cream? So unfortunately, I don't know of a substitute for the cream cheese for this recipe. It is a cheesecake, and I know you could probably use, what's it called, like mascarpone cheese, usually as a lighter flavor. You could probably get away with like a ricotta, but that has more liquid than a cream cheese, so I don't know how you would ingest the other ingredients for that, but honestly, I would give it a try and see what happens. So all baking is experimentation, right? It's science. So if you don't have cream cheese, this is your chance to experiment and try something out and see if it works. If it doesn't, okay, make note of it. Make note of what worked. Was it too liquidy? Did it need more substance? Make note of that so next time you can make those adjustments. Okay, that's how you make new recipes completely from scratch. Okay, but you do need some sort of like a heftier, like a cream cheese or something to kind of bring this all together. Okay, so I'm gonna push that aside. All right, so I have my cream cheese and I have the rest of my ingredients ready to go. I'm gonna be putting in the blender first my cream cheese and my 3/4 cup of sugar. Okay, so I have my 1/4 cup here. So I'm gonna put this cream cheese in my blender, in my food processor, stick that in there, lovely. Okay, and now I need 3/4 sugar. I go shopping in bulk if you couldn't tell. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's 3/4. Okay, 3/4 a cup of regular sugar. I'm gonna stick the lid on this guy. And now I want to blend it up until it's nice and smooth. Ready? So I'm going to turn this on just so I only have 1 speed on this guy. So there we go. Please be careful if you are using a food processor or something, because they do tend to have very sharp blades. Okay. There we go. All right, so the goal is to get this as smooth and creamy as you can before you add in the rest of your ingredients, okay? Scrape down the sides because I also have some chunks above, and I just really want to make sure that it all just gets in there. So you should be able to see it, that there's no more sort of big chunks in there. Yeah, so we are now adding in our sour cream. So 3/4 of a cup, right in the food processor. All right, 1. And then we're gonna blend it up again. We're not putting the eggs in yet. All right, and now I'm gonna add in my eggs. Now for your eggs, we want 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. So I need 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. So I'm gonna crack it into a separate bowl before pouring it into my food processor. So 1 whole egg. Okay, so for just isolating my egg yolk, I'm gonna crack my egg and carefully take the 2 sides and then bounce my yolk carefully back and forth between the 2 eggshells. Okay, until I've gotten rid of as much of the egg whites as I can, and then I'm going to take the yolk and put it in the bowl with the full egg. Okay, now we're going to pour this right in here, pop it off. All right, so now I got my pan. You can put the parchment paper on this. It's not really completely necessary because we're not worried about it popping out of here neatly. We're actually going to kind of be scraping it off of this pan to put in our secondary container with the crust, okay, like our muffin container, our pie pan. So you don't really need parchment paper. I'm not going to bother using it, but I am going to just give a light spray still to make sure nothing really sticks. I am going to take this mixture that I just made. I'm going to take my spatula, scrape down the edges, just make sure we're looking good. I am noticing like some chunkier components, so I might actually scrape it down and just.
Mine is very liquidy.
Mine is very liquidy too. Okay, trust me, that's okay. I'm going to pop this back on a little bit because I noticed some chunks in my liquid. I don't want that. So if you're ready to pour your cheesecake batter onto your pan, all right, and you're gonna see how liquidy mine is too. So for those of you that are freaking out that it's liquid, trust me, so is mine, you're okay, okay? If you still have chunks in there, or if you're afraid you might have chunks, you can grab a fine mesh spatula and pour your cheesecake through the spatula, through the sieve. Okay, so fine mesh sieve. Pour it through here, so this way it catches all the chunks before you put it on your pan, okay? So that's something that you can do if you want to. So I'm just gonna pour mine out. You see how liquidy mine is? Do you see this? All right, it's so liquidy. I'm gonna take my spatula, get all of it out of here. I'm gonna be careful of this blade. And then before I pop this in the oven, I don't want anyone popping this in the oven yet because I'm gonna show you the water bath trick. All right, and I want to make sure everyone is kind of ready. So I'm going to come and check the chat as soon as I get this into my pan. Okay. All right, so then I'm just going to use my spatula and just kind of smoothly just get it over the pan. So it doesn't have to look pretty. I'm just making sure it's sort of evenly spread so it cooks even. So I have my pan and I have my oven. Now I'm actually going to bring my computer over to the oven with me so you can see this next step. My oven's preheated for the most part. I actually put it only on 275. I just upped it. It's going to be fine. I'm going to put the cheesecake in there anyway. I am going to grab a half cup of water and I'm going to grab my cheesecake. All right. I'm going to take my cheesecake and I'm going to put it in the middle to upper pan, middle or upper of the oven. I just don't want to put it on the lower rack. Okay. Now cheesecakes need that steam to cook and cook evenly. So I'm going to grab my water and I'm gonna just splash it in the bottom rack of this pan. So it's just gonna go on the oven and then I'm gonna close the door really, really quickly, capture that steam in my oven. Okay, so you ready? 1, 2, 3. Steam. At any point, you do not put the water on the cheesecake. Okay, so you're putting the water in on the bottom of the oven and the cheesecake is above it. Okay, do not pour the water on the cheesecake. Okay, that is not what you want. All right, so we're creating steam. If at any point during the cooking process you open the oven to check on your cheesecake, pour more water in there. And just a warning, if you are a glasses wearer like myself, when you open that oven, you will be hit in the face with steam and your glasses will totally fog up. So let's move on. We're gonna make our crusts now. while that guy's in the oven, okay? So the crust is really easy. It is graham cracker crumbs, butter, and a little bit of sugar, okay? That's it. So you are gonna take 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs. Now, if you don't have graham cracker crumbs, best way to make graham cracker crumbs, graham crackers, right? You're gonna take your graham crackers, you're gonna put them in a Ziploc bag, and then take a rolling pin and roll them over until you get nice crumbs, or you can always put them in a food processor, okay? I found this at the bottom of my pantry when I was getting the ingredients together, crushed Oreos. So you guys, I think I might go a little rogue on my recipe. I think I'm gonna make some of my cheesecakes with an Oreo crust, because who doesn't love that, all right? So I think I'm gonna do that. Okay, so we are gonna take, maybe I'll do like half and half, I don't know, we'll see. So you're gonna take 1.5 cups of graham crackers. I'm gonna use Oreos because that is what I have. So now I need melted butter. I need 5 tablespoons of melted butter, or 70.8 grams. Okay, so I have like a full loaf here. So I'm gonna melt it in a little dish. So I'm gonna cut off 70.8 grams, or 70.9, somewhere around there. So I have my butter. I'm gonna stick this in the microwave for about 30 seconds. I want it to be fully melted. Okay, and while I'm waiting, I'm also gonna put in here 1/3 cup of sugar. 1/3 cup of sugar. So if you don't have graham crackers, you can use a different kind of cookie. Like I'm using Oreos actually, because that's what I had. You can use a cookie, a whole cookie, a chocolate chip cookie. What do you got? What do you have in your pantry? You don't even really need anything if you don't have anything. I once used granola, like just honestly straight up granola. Okay, so whatever you got in your pantry that you think like, that could be a good crust. Imagine you're not gonna be cooking this for that long. So it's not like gonna get sort of melted together. So look through your pantry, look for your refrigerator and think like, if I took my fork and like put my fork down through a cheesecake and hit that crust, whatever the crust is, would that be yummy? Okay, so think like, would that taste good? And then give it a try. As I said before, right? Baking is about experimentation. That's how you invent new recipes. All right, so I'm gonna take my melted butter. I'm gonna pour it in here. All right, so I'm gonna grab my spatula or a spoon and I'm just gonna mix it up. Make sure it's nice and blended. Okay, it's gonna feel sort of like sand. All right, so you're looking for a sandy-like consistency, okay? So like sand at the beach kind of thing. So it all should be a little bit wet and you can kind of like mold it together like a sandcastle. All right, and then I'm gonna take my pan. Now again, I like saving on the amount of washing I really have to do. So I'm gonna take some muffin liners. If you don't have muffin liners, that's okay. I would just spray the inside of your muffin tin so that way the cakes pop out. But obviously if you have muffin liners, it's gonna be a lot easier to take out of the pan when it's done. Okay, and I'm gonna put one in each of these. All right, so now I'm gonna take a spoonful of my crust at a time. I'm gonna put it at the bottom, right, about like a spoonful, 2 spoonfuls, and then I'm gonna use clean finger, and I'm gonna press it in. I'm gonna press it into the bottom of my muffin tin and up the sides a little bit. Okay, so it doesn't have to come all the way up the sides, but I just wanna make sure that it's evenly distributed and that it does come up a little bit on the edges. All right, again, I'm not measuring out how much I'm putting in each one, so I'm not being like super even about it. I'm just sort of eyeballing it. All right, so now I put my crust in. I'm gonna push this all in here. Make sure, again, it's nice and even. All right, so we're actually gonna be baking these crusts for just about 10 minutes or so. How are we doing on time? We're doing great on time. Okay, so we are gonna be baking these for, yeah, about 10 minutes. I'm gonna wait until the cheesecakes come out, and as soon as the cheesecakes come out, I'm gonna pop these in for 10 minutes, okay? I'm gonna go check on mine, and I'm gonna pour some more water in there. So for those of you that wanna see this again, all right, cool. I didn't get a face full of steam, so that's always nice. Now, the things I'm looking for to know that this is done, come down here so you can see me. It shouldn't jiggle, okay? And when I take my hands and lightly touch it, it shouldn't come away on my fingers. So I'm gonna touch this, and can you see how it's coming away on my fingers? That means it's not quite done, okay? So I'm gonna put it back in, and I am gonna put a little bit more water in on the bottom. To give it a little bit more steam. So I have a feeling that mine is gonna be done in about 10 more minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna now set my timer.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I checked on it, it would like only like barely anything came on my fingers when I did it.
So then it might be done. So when you mean barely anything, some did? A little bit.
Just like a tiny, tiny bit.
So maybe leave it in for just 5 more minutes and then it should be good.
Okay.
Okay? So while it's baking and while you're waiting to put your crust in, you can start thinking about, what do I want to do to make my cheesecake special? Do I want to top it with anything? Do I want to layer it? So what you're going to be doing when this comes out of the oven, okay, and once your crusts go in the oven and bake for just 10 minutes, okay, and then come out, you're going to assemble. So what we're going to be doing is taking the cheesecake, taking it off, scraping it with the spoon off of our cookie sheet, and scooping it into our muffin liners. Okay, so you can layer it. You can do like a little bit of cheesecake, then like maybe some chocolate ganache or some crumbled Oreos or whatever, a peanut butter cup, whatever you want, some fruit from fresh fruit, and then layer it with more cheesecake, and then maybe top it with some more chocolate or a piece of fresh fruit or whatever it is you want, however you want to assemble it. And then these are going to go in the refrigerator for about 2 hours. Okay, because it needs to form together. Okay, it needs to make sure that the crust and the cheesecake kind of come together in nice harmony, and it's just like it's solid. Okay, it's not gonna come tumbling out and be totally soupy. Okay, if you want to do a full cheesecake, I would do the full 30 minutes and then check on it. Okay, so if you're doing a full cheesecake, like not on the cookie sheet, so like a regular sort of cheesecake pan, I would check on it in 30 minutes and then, you know, assess from there. I always, whenever I'm baking something, I usually do the full time, the lowest amount of time recommended by the recipe. And then I'll usually tack on about 10 minutes each time, unless it's like almost there. And then I might just do like 2 minutes or so. Okay, so that's usually how I assess. Okay.
Maybe I need
I'm gonna go pop my crust in 300 for 10 minutes. So here's mine, you guys. So there's no real jiggle to it. When I tilt it up, it's not flowing down, which is good. And when I touch it, like really nothing is coming off on my fingers at all. Okay, you guys see that? Like nothing. Okay, and so that's good. But it still feels soft. All right, so I'm gonna leave this aside. My crusts are in the oven now for 10 minutes, and I'm gonna just double check that I did set my timer. I did. So when that comes out of the oven, when my crusts come out of the oven, take a spoon, I'm gonna scoop my cheesecake and put it into my little crusts and stick that in the fridge for about 2 hours, or I'm just gonna wait until after dinner tonight and then pull them out and be able to eat them. Now, if you wanna make your own whipped cream to put on top of your cheesecakes, just take some heavy cream and put it in a stand mixer, or you need a stand mixer or an electric mixer. You can do it by hand, but you need to really mix it. And beat it on high speed, put a little bit of sugar in, like just about a tablespoon or so, until it gets to soft or stiff peaks. And then you have whipped cream. That's it, just 2 ingredients. I think I'm gonna make some ganache to put with my cheesecake. I am gonna take for my ganache, if you guys wanna learn how to make ganache here. I am gonna take a bowl, I'm gonna go get those chocolate chips again. Okay, I'm using a semi-sweet chocolate. You can use any kind of chocolate you want. White chocolate, milk chocolate, semi-sweet, dark, whatever you want. And I'm gonna put about 300 grams, and I can tell you how many cups that is. 300 grams, it looks to me about like 1.5 cups, all right? Okay, I'm actually gonna microwave this for a minute to soften them up. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab a pan, put it also on my scale. I'm gonna take some heavy cream and do about 250 grams or 250 mLs of cream. You're just warming up the chocolate in the microwave for just a minute. Okay, so I just did this a minute. It's not like melted, but it's warm. Okay, and I'm just gonna leave that. I'm not gonna take my heavy cream. I'm gonna go put it on the stovetop until it's just before boiling. So I don't want rolling bubbles, but I want it to be like kind of steamy. Put this over here. And that does happen very quickly. Okay, so you don't want to leave it unattended for too long. All right, and I'm gonna grab a whisk. So what's gonna happen is when my heavy cream is done, I'm gonna pour it on top of my chocolate, let it sit for just a minute and whisk it up. And the idea is that it gets fully creamy. If I notice still some chunks of chocolate in there that aren't melting, I can put the whole thing back in the microwave for just about 30 seconds or so. So you can warm the heavy cream in the microwave. I usually just put it on the stovetop, okay? The heavy cream. So now I'm gonna take my heavy cream, I'm gonna pour it into my chocolate. Now the cool thing about ganaches is depending on your ratio of chocolate to milk, you can change how it forms. So you can put in, if you put in more chocolate and less milk, it can almost be like sliceable when it completely cools. If you want it to be like more like a pour, like if you ever seen like those drip cakes with the pores on top, that's a ganache, okay? So then they put a little bit more milk than they do chocolate. Okay, so it's all about just your ratios. So you want to just mix it up with your whisk until it's nice and smooth and creamy. And again, if you notice that there are chocolate bits in there that are not melting, you can put this back in the microwave for just about 15 seconds or so. And then, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble it. So I have my cheesecake in the pan. I have a spoon. I'm going to take scoops of cheesecake. Look at that, literally scoops of cheesecake. I'm going to put it in my muffin tin and just sort of press it down, okay? Press it in there, just get it in, okay? Try to get it in as best as I can using the back of my spoon to just press it in, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is take another spoon. Now this is how I'm doing it. You don't have to do it this way. I'm gonna take then a spoonful of this ganache, and I made way too much ganache, by the way. Take a spoonful of the ganache, I'm gonna put it right in the center of my cheesecake. And then I'm gonna take more cheesecake and layer it on top until it comes to the top of my muffin tin. Okay, and then I'm just gonna take my back of my spoon and I'm just gonna make sure it's nice and smoothed out. Okay, the other thing that I can do, which I think I'm gonna do right now, is just, I'm gonna find it a little bit easier, is you can transfer the cheesecake to a Ziploc bag or a piping bag and kind of pipe it in, okay? So check out this piping bag full of cheesecake right there. Delicious. I just made a cake the other weekend that had the filling was cheesecake, and it was delicious. All right, so I have my cheesecake. I'm gonna cut open the tip of it, and then just go ahead and pour it, pipe it into my crust. I'm just doing a little bit at a time, okay? And you can pipe it in so it sort of fills up the muffin tin if you want. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pan, make sure it's not hot anymore, and I'm gonna tap it against the counter to try to get an even level here. Okay, and then I'm gonna take some of my ganache and I'm gonna pour that, drizzle it on top, okay? In whatever sort of design you want, if you want it to be in a design or whatever. And then this is gonna get popped into the fridge until it totally cools, and then I can take it out of the little containers. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed today. As always, send me your photos at Casey H Bakes on Instagram, and make sure to tag Rye Country Day, all right? Or send me an email on First Class and let me know how it goes. Sarah, does that mean your cheesecake came out good? I saw that victory dance. Mm-hmm. Good. All right, so I want to hear how it went, and I hope you guys will join for next week, okay? Where we hopefully will have a guest baker with us. All right? All right, have a good week, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.